Hey, so welcome to the second video blog of Aisha's Grand Tour of London and home counties. The last blog came from London Eye, and today we come to see a bit of nature. We come to the Tree Cathedral at Whipsnade, just outside Dunstable. So Aisha, in the last blog you asked me lots of questions about academies and free schools, what people in America know as charter schools. I think the issues are very similar across the two countries. So let's talk a little bit about the curriculum today. So tell me a little bit more about the issues, the problems you have with the curriculum in America. I understand they call it Common Core, is that correct?
Yes, there are a new set of standards, and they were imposed on schools under duress, many people believe, because the No Child Left Behind law had left us vulnerable with impossible goals, and many students were not able to achieve those. It was unrealistic. So waivers were being given if states would sign up with Obama's Race to the Top initiative. And they were promised more money and funding, and they needed to tie teacher evaluations to test scores. They needed to adopt the Common Core standards, and the National Governors Association and other business interests were pushing these standards that were not teacher written, they were not focused on children, that they were developmentally inappropriate, and they led to a domino effect of testocracy and a destruction of the curriculums in primary school all the way up, elementary school all the way up into high school. And they're seriously narrow, and they are the foundation of testing and taking over privatization. They really are.
Okay, so you talked about teacher evaluations being linked to test scores. Is that across elementary and high school? Is that both?
Yep, everything. If your state signs up as a member of your union, your evaluation usually is part of your contract. And when your state signs up and your union allows this to happen, this is what happens. Your scores, so the students you serve get, form a part, it's in New York in particular, the percentage of your evaluation. So what it does is it punishes teachers for teaching the neediest students. And so it creates this brain drain from urban areas where the kids come who are immigrants, who are learning English as a second language, which I teach. The kids who come who are students with interrupted formal education, the SIVE students, who come from places where maybe they hadn't had education for 2 years. In addition, the kids who are the lower third, struggling readers, and students with disabilities. So you get punished by having those students. You end up having your evaluation reflecting what they have achieved. And the argument is, oh, well, we can measure by growth. And this has been proven to be untrue. The Shari Letterman case proved that even working in a rich area with highly literate kids, that the idea of using growth scores can still hurt you as a teacher. She was rated ineffective because her kids made no growth. Why? Because they were already hitting the top level of scoring. So the formulas are wrong, and we shouldn't judge children in those ways. So that's the bigger problem.
So as I understand it, the idea of the Common Core is the common set of core standards, focusing very much on core standards. So am I right in saying that more creative subjects, the arts, they get squeezed out of the curriculum, they get left, the children don't get to experience them as much under Common Core?
Exactly. There's not, standards are focused on English, writing, and math. That's where the focus is on. And they may include things here and there that may have the word history in it, or the word science in it, but the reality is it's not a comprehensive set of standards for all subjects. So what ends up happening is that all of the energy at a school culture level gets focused on those two subject areas, and you can't evaluate a music teacher on math scores or a gym teacher on English scores. It doesn't make any sense. So when you've tied evaluations to scores on standards that don't match those subject areas, they get increasingly marginalized, and those teachers end up suffering underneath that.
So am I right in thinking that the children take tests and they have test scores in the UK, in England mainly, Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland have separate education systems. The results of the whole school are generally published and create league tables. Am I right in saying that in many parts of the states, individual teachers scored, so their classes get published.
In some states, they have published it. It's led to teacher suicides, led to depression, led to teachers just quitting the profession when things have been published. So the worst teacher in the city and that type of thing. And the reality is that it doesn't tell the truth about what that teacher's been able to do. If their student population came very low and they were able to move them up a little bit, it should reflect that the teacher has been working very hard, but the students came and they needed a lot of help. They needed a lot of support, and that's where the bigger problem is.
So what's the union perspective on this? You have two big unions in the States. What's their position on this?
We have two big national unions, NEA and AFT, and they have been not helpful in some ways, whereas they have claimed, oh, it's great, we should all have standards, we are professionals, we need standards. And in one case, Michael Mulgrew, president of UFT, said a very harsh thing, said he would punch people in the face and push them in the dirt if they took the standards away. And the grassroots people were saying, no, we don't like these standards, and pushing back. And the union's going to eventually have to move towards where it's going. The public outcry is that big. But for the most part, they've played along.
Do you think the unions are just too big? In the UK, we have, in England, I should keep saying England, we have 5 major teaching unions really, the NUT being the biggest, has about 300,000 members. And we think that's pretty big. You know, for us, that's huge. But of course, New York State is bigger than England. New York State is bigger than the UK. So do you think they're just too big? They've become almost too corporate?
I think they're very corporate. I think they're very corrupt. I think that they have created a problem within themselves in that, at least from my perspective, the UFT, which is the city, New York City Union, has a caucus they call the Unity Caucus that has been in charge for a long time. And so they pretty much are the party of the status quo and the party of the 1%. And they push in their leadership up to the state level, and NYSUT. And NYSUT pushes up their leadership up to AFT. It was no surprise to most people that Randy Weingarten moved from the UFT all the way up to the AFT. So there is a very big connection from the local up to the top. But their intention is not to organize teachers. They haven't been doing that grassroots work for years. Their intention is to create products and to maintain the money flowing.
So what's the answer? How can Common Core be defeated? You asked me in the last blog, how would I defeat GERM in England? How would you envisage going about defeating GERM and Common Core in the States?
I think part of it is needing to wake up many different sleeping giants. One is definitely parents. The second is definitely teachers who are social justice aware. And the other is to wake up the students and to tell the truth. I would love to see my former students who are in college now struggling to write, struggling to be in a biology lab because our school didn't have a biology lab, because all of the focus gets put on one side, so you don't see the investment in other things. So these students go to school saying, oh, you're college ready, you passed all these tests, but they weren't college ready. And I need those stories to come out. So what happens to those kids when they have to take remedial writing, remedial math, remedial everything, because they weren't properly trained, because that part of their intellectual development was neglected in favor of tests. So those 3 sleeping giants: students, parents, and the vast majority of teachers who are
It's almost like a three-legged stool. Three-legged stool. We use the expression of three-legged stool. So you always look at it from that perspective. If you remove one leg, then it doesn't work. You need all 3 to come together to beat the Common Core.
Yeah, we probably need a 4th, which would be just the general public that don't have too much of a fight, because maybe you don't have children right now, so they're not in school. Maybe you're a retired teacher. Maybe you're just a librarian, a public library. Maybe you're just a grandparent. Maybe you're just someone who's noticing as a professor, these kids can't write. We need that extra 4th leg for the stool to really shine a light on what the impact on society will be if we continue going in this direction.
Thank you very much, Aixa. I think that's very comprehensive. Comrades, colleagues, how have you identify yourself? As you can hear, lots of issues in the States. I think it's quite worrying from an English perspective that Nicky Morgan, the Education Secretary, continue looking towards the States for more ideas on how to transform education. And I think, as you can see, it's not such a good picture. Individualised teachers' test scores. That could be you. For every winner, there's a loser. We have problems with league tables. I think it's even worse. Thank you very much.